Okay, thank you. What you see here is the head of a true bug, a close up. You see the complex eye. The eyes of insects have many facets, each forming their own image, and many bugs also have a single ocellum, which also plays a part, a role in their optical imagination. Work. Which button? Okay. The first question, of course, is what is a true bug? Next one. True bugs are, of course, insects belonging to the order of Hemiptera. Next. Next. This order consists not only of true bugs, but a lot of other groups. For instance, cicadas, frog hoppers, spittlebugs, leaf hoppers, aphids, and scale insects. The true bugs form the suborder of Heteroptera, head bugs. They are also called. Next one. So here you see the typical head of a true bug. And next one. What is obvious are the mouth parts of these insects. They have a snout, or also called rostrum, and all Hemiptera have this segmented. You see the segments here: first, second, third, fourth, and each contains two small channels. One channel to inject saliva into the food item to make it edible, and a second one to suck the liquids used for feeding, and it can be sap, body fluid, or even blood. Next one. So here you see a pentatonic bug with his rostrum piercing into a caterpillar and sucking the content of the caterpillar out. Next one. So how do you recognize a true bug? It's mainly because the form of the forewings. They have four wings. The hind wings are, in this case, not interesting, but it's especially the forewings which make the difference between the groups of different Hemiptera. You see here in the forewing two parts. You see a colored part, which is colored and rather thick, leathery, consisting of chitine, and you see the top of the wing, which is a membrane. You can look through it. So this heterogeneity in wing morph is responsible for the name given to these creatures. Hetero is different and ptera is wing. So the wings are built of different parts. Next one. There, of course, oh, sorry, you're too fast. There are, of course, exceptions. In some species, the wings are reduced and they cannot fly, and they can be covered by other parts of the body, mainly the scutellum. You see here this triangular structure that is called the scutellum, schildje in Dutch, and it can be very big and covering the whole abdomen of the insect. Next one. So these two species are also hemiptera, but they are not true bugs because they have not this division in four wings we have seen in the slide before. The wing consists of only one part. You can see it's a hemipteran because you see here the snout, the rostrum. Yes?
On the previous slide, I think that's what we call our stink bugs.
Yeah?
Are you going to get into why they smell?
Maybe. Yes? Maybe. Next one. How many species of true bugs are there? Well, worldwide there are more than 45,000 described species, and the number that is actually there is probably twice or three times as much. A lot needs still to be described, especially from the tropical regions. Seba, 65 species are listed, and how many there are is still unknown, but I suspect it will be twice as much. We already collected a number of species thus far not known from the island. They are mostly terrestrial, living on trees, shrubs, herbs, and grasses. There are also some ground-dwelling species, even burrowing in the ground and living from roots of plants. And there are only a very few aquatic and semi-aquatic species here on the island, which of course is because there's little free running water available on the island. No ponds, no streams. Next one. Well, the life cycle. Next one. Well, you see on the left side an adult female laying eggs. The young larvae, the first instamen, hatches from the eggs, and because they have an external skeleton, they cannot grow. They have to molt after each stage. And in total, there are 5 stages before the adult emerges, and the sequence repeats itself. In the last 5th instar, you can already see the development of the wings, and also the sexual organs are already developed in the last instar larva. So they have no metamorphosis, so like a lot of other insects, flies and bees and butterflies, which have a metamorphosis and a pupal stage. Nothing of that you have in Heteroptera. Next slide, please. Well, for the public, the true bugs have a rather bad reputation. They can be smelly by the production of defensive fluids, so they are called stink bugs, but of course that's a matter of opinion. Some heteropterists like the smell, because if you smell them, you can find them. So they also have a bad reputation because they feed on human blood, bed bugs and kissing bugs. On the left you see the bed bugs, and there are species that only prey on humans, actually two species, one in the northern hemisphere and one in the southern hemisphere. And here you see one sucking on a human. And on the content of the abdomen, it's already filled with blood. These species are special because they don't have fully developed wings. You see here the wings, which are very reduced. And there exists no long-winged specimens in this genus. On the right side you see the kissing bug, Triatoma maculata. It's also feared because it can act as a factor for Chagas disease, which is a serious sleeping disease, especially in Southern America. But because of the climate warming, this species comes up north. And it's already found in the southern United States. And 2 years ago, I was on Bonaire, and there it was already very common. Luckily, the trypanosomes, which are in the digestive tract of the species, were not available there, so they are not yet factor of this disease. So the species occur, but does not act as a factor. It has not been found on Seba yet, or on St. Martin or St. Eustatius, but maybe in the near future they will appear here as well. Next one. Apart from these few nasty examples, of course, they are very beautiful and diverse, and I will show you in the next slide some of the diversity of the species here on Seba. Next one. Here you see the family Tingidae or lace bugs. They're called lace bugs because they are completely covered with lace, like Brussels lace, and that's a character of the whole family. This one is not a very nice one, Pseudocysta persei, because it's called the avocado lace bug, and it feeds on the underside of avocado leaves and may cause considerable damage to infested trees. So it's a rather harmful insect. It occurs here on the island. Next one. Well, these are two species of the same family of lacebugs that have been found this year by other investigators, and we still do not know which species they are. They may be new to science, or they may have been overlooked and occur, for instance, on the other islands.
How big are they?
Sorry?
Are they tiny or?
They are tiny. These ones are 3 to 4 millimeters. So it's not so easy to find them as well. Next one. Here you see the family Nabidae or damsel bugs. They are predators, as you can see from the slides. They live from flies, but also from spiders. And they are rather polyphagous, so they do not depend on a single kind of prey, but they eat virtually everything that is small enough for them to attack. And indeed also spiders. Next one. This is the family Raduffidae, assassin bugs, also predators, but they are a lot larger. This is a very common species on Seba, and it is about, well, two and a half centimeters, so rather big. And they are, they prey on larger prey, including spiders, and we discovered here on the island that they also prey on honeybees and other bees. Next one. The family Ligeidae or seed bugs, Oncopeltis fasciatus. feeding normally on milkweed and related toxic plants. They occur here as well on oleander. And interesting of this species is that they are aposematic. That means they are toxic because of the food they digest, and they show that to possible predators by their warning colors. So if you see an insect and a bug with this kind of colors, you know this is an aposematic species and will be avoided by birds and other predators. Next slide. Pyrocoridae, firebugs. This is an interesting one. I found it this morning by the airport. It lives only on what we call strandpopulier, Specia populnea. The English name is Pochia tree. And it's also, and you can see that from the color, an aposematic species. It's poisonous to predators. Next one. Family Coreidae, squash bugs or leather bugs. They are phytophagous, so they are living from plants, mostly from seeds and fruits of trees. And this one, this genus of Coreidae is remarkable because they have this very large, broadly flattened tibiae. And there are a lot in the tropics, in the neotropics especially, but the function of these widely flattened tibiae is still unknown. Next one. Next one. Well, there are some other species. Yeah, you can click on now. The names are not so important here. These are other species of Coreidae, squash bugs, that are rather common here on Seba. Some are brightly colored and others are rather dull. And that's, of course, camouflation in the kind of habitat where they live. Next one. Scutelariidae or jewel bugs. They are so called because they are usually very brightly colored. And this one is also very special because of these many orange bright spots. It's also a phytophagous species feeding on Jatropha. And what is special in this family, in this whole family, is that the scutellum, what you see here, is covering almost the whole body. So they can fly, but their wings are folded underneath the scutellum. These species you also frequently are attracted to light. So we do a lot of collecting also on light, and then you will also find this kind of species. Next one. The largest family presented here on the island are the Pentatomidae, or shield bugs, and they can be beautifully colored. The names are sometimes obvious because this one is called Epsilon because it has a very bright, light yellowish white epsilon on the scutellum. Very common on Mont Scenery. And the other one, Folseria nigro-ruba, is also very obvious because of the dark metallic blue of the wings and the scutellum contrasting again against the red coloration of the abdomen. Next one. Another one, very beautiful species, Ascra bifida, next one. Next one. A lookalike, Edessa meditabunda, but different, mainly because it lacks the yellow point of the scutellum. Next one. Well, you have all kinds of shield bugs here on the island, all different forms. And next one. Another representative of the same family. Here, Mesidia longula, a species that lives only on grasses. Next one. Two other ones. They are very easy to identify because of the beautiful points of the what we call the halsschild, the pronotum. Yes, next one. And this is the last slide and also the last family, Tesseratominae. It's the largest species here on the island. I think it is about 2.5 centimeters. And there is a very large difference between how the nymphal stage look and the adult species. At first we found only this specimen, and after a while we also took the adult one, and you can see from the edge of the abdomen that it actually is the same species as this young one, the juvenile one. Well, thank you very much for your attention, and ready to answer some questions.
So how long does it take to go from that juvenile stage to the adult?
Well, it depends more or less of the temperature, but I suppose in this climate here in Seba, it will be about 4 weeks. And there is here, of course, the possibility that you have more than one generation a year. So the adult female can lay eggs again, and you will have a second generation.
Since you guys been here, how many species that you found that was registered?
Well, we don't know that exactly because a lot of material, we take the material home, and there we can start to identify them. And that is a rather difficult process because a number of species you can only identify based on the male genitalia, and you have to prepare them, and you have to see in the international literature with what species you have to do. There's, for instance, a family, Miridae, which are rather small bugs, of which practically I think there are only 2 species known in the Caribbean species register from Seba, and I already collected 10 species here. So, and I still have to find out what their name is. What we also do is to some specimens are put in alcohol and go to Naturalis in the Netherlands, and they will try to identify them by establishing the DNA and look in the international DNA bank of you can put a name to the species based on DNA material collected somewhere else. But it's a complex story, and it may last some time before we have the names for all the species. And some may be, of course, totally new and have to be described.
65 plus species.
Yeah,
65 already.
65 already. They are known and they are documented. But I think I already have more than 20, 25 that are not on the list. And it's not so remarkable because the last one who really intensively collected here was in 65, 75 of the last century. And since that time, hardly anything was done here. So, yes.
Do you know why the juvenile is such a different color?
Sorry?
Do you know why the juvenile, this one, is such a different color?
No, no, I don't know. No, absolutely not. No, no,
It's not camouflaged at all.
no, no, no. It's just very obvious. Yeah, it invites to be eaten. Okay, thank you. Mhm.
Turn this thing on. Is it on?
Ja, deze microfoon is vaak alsof het een biertje is. Je moet het voor je mond houden. Dus
Oh, nou, dat was toch goed te verstaan.
gaat weer.
Start this one.
To sting or not to sting?
All right. Well, thank you. I'm Wim Arp, and I have been studying the wasps and bees of this island the last week. And hopefully this week I'll continue with some finding some more wasps. They've asked me to tell you something about wasps, and especially the stinging wasps. Let's see. I'll try to. Well, this is a group of insects that's almost more hated than the bugs, I think. The wasps. Everybody thinks wasps. Ooh, let's kill them. Usually, there's a lot of fake news about that. Actually, they're very nice animals. Then I'll try to say something of why wasps have a sting. How did it develop during the evolution? And finally, I'll show you some pictures I made of the wasps and bees I found here on Seba last week to show you something of the diversity of the wasps here. Yeah.
Foto's van hemzelf, hè?
Well, if you look around on internet, you'll find things like this. How to tell a bee apart from a wasp, and then of course says, well, wasp is just an asshole, and bee is of course perfect, pollinates, makes honey, improves the environment, which is doubtful for honeybees because it competes with wild bees and everything. So reluctant to sting, well, they'll sting just as easily as wasps. But they have a good reputation, and these have a very bad reputation. So the next one, yes. And if there's more like that, like this.
Bros.
Bros, not bros.
Bros.
And yeah, continue.
Yeah, pretty, not gross.
And there's some which actually says something positive. Okay, they help humans by eating other insects. So it's a little less negative, but everything you find on the internet is just negative. Bees are wonderful and wasps. Ooh. Okay. But why should we not hate wasps? Well, we know, of course, bees are very useful for pollination, not just the honeybees, but also the wild bees. Wasps are very important predators of pest insects. If you have a vegetable garden or a flower garden, the wasps will be your friends. They'll eat the aphids and they eat the caterpillars that eat your plants. I found this quote from a book which was 150 years ago. Somebody tried, well, I will read it. The practical result of destroying all the wasps on Sir Brisbane's estate was that in 2 years' time the place was infested, like Egypt, with a plague of flies. So that's what happens if you kill all the wasps. You'll get the plague insects. Yes? Okay, then I'll try to tell you why did wasps evolve a sting? How did they get a sting? Well, a long time ago, the first wasps were actually the wasps that we still find today, like the we call sawflies. They're quite simple wasps, and they are vegetarian. They lay their eggs in plants, and for that they use a structure like a saw, and they use that to lay their eggs in plants. And their larvae they feed on the plants. Yes. Well, some of these wasps actually thought it would be a better idea to lay their eggs in other insects because it's much more nutritious than plants. So they started to laying eggs in certain prey. So here in a caterpillar, for instance. So you don't need a saw anymore, but you need a kind of thing to inject your eggs into this prey. And it was also useful that they invented to use some venom to paralyze the prey while they're busy laying their eggs. So that's why, well, to keep them quiet. Yes. And these are what we call the parasitoid wasps, and these are very successful family. There are millions, well, probably hundreds of thousands of species on the world, and they vary from this one, which I found here, to yes, next one, a very strange formed thing, which I also found here, which is about 3 millimeters big, which has some very strange things here, and I have no idea if anybody knows what it is because nobody studies these things, but there are very many species. Yes, next. But then the next step in the what we call evolution is that some wasps, well, the problem with the former the parasitoid wasp is that they have one prey, and the prey should be big enough for the larvae to develop. There's only one animal as prey, so they always have to have a big prey. And also the prey is left it is left in the open, so it can be taken by spiders and other insects. So some wasps um, started digging nests for their prey and just burying it so it is safe. And they also they still use this thing, but used to lay eggs to bring venom and into the prey to paralyze it. But then they can use then they started to bring their prey to the nest and cover it. Well, the advantage of that is that you can use more prey to collect them together. So bring more, and then you don't need all these big prey, so you can just collect lots of animals and lay your egg on a whole heap of them. Um, and what also happens is that the ovipositor, the thing that was used to lay eggs, it's not used anymore for laying eggs. It's not so it's actually only used now to paralyze the prey, to catch the prey. Um, and also this, what we then call sting, that has been developed, is also used for defense. And this strategy started the development of bees and also ants and wasps, which are all in one big order. Yes. Okay. So the wasps, we actually divide them into groups. We have the solitary wasps, which is the big group, which will just will have a female wasp which gathers food, builds nests, and just does everything on her own. Um, but you also have the social wasp, which you have the queen wasp, which is very well known, of course, and she lays eggs, which will turn into workers. They do all the work for her, and eventually there will be a generation with new queens and males. And the only one on this island is the Jack Spaniard wasp, which is the most common wasp here, of course. The solitary wasps will actually hardly ever sting because it's dangerous. If you sting someone, you get a reaction, you may get flattened, and no offspring. While these social wasps, the workers of these, they will not have any offspring anyway, so they're just there to gather food and defend the nest, and they will much more easily sting. Yes. And the same happens to bees. So bees are actually just wasps, which happen to turn back to vegetarian diets. And actually, they still have their sting, even though they don't use it to hunt. Some bees even have lost their sting again. Um, and most solitary bees will not defend their own nest, like I said, it's too dangerous for them. Um, they will still sting if you grab them and they're really in danger, they will sting. Although most of the wild bees are so small that they can hardly penetrate your skin. So the big ones will. If you have these big carpenter bees, those big black ones you may have seen flying around, don't grab them. They're really painful. But the social bees, actually only ones here are the honeybees. Same as with the wasp, the workers will defend the nest if you get too close. So those will be more dangerous. Yes. Then the ants, they are also wasps, usually without wings. At least the workers are without wings, and they have a sting which they use for hunting prey. Just most of them. Can be actually can be quite painful. Their stings, as you probably have found out. On Seba, there's one invasive fire ant, Osmania, which happens to be here. This is everywhere here actually, and it's also can bite or can sting. Yes. So for can wasp sting, yes. But, it may be a shock to most people, but wasps are actually not totally not interested in humans. They just want to do their thing. And of course, if you, yeah, if they are attacked or they feel threatened, if you grab them or if you stand on them with your bare feet, of course, yes, they will defend themselves. They will sting. And social bees and wasps and ants will sting more easily because they have these workers, which is it's their job to defend the nest and use their sting. And also, of course, half of the wasps won't sting at all because they're males, and males don't have a sting because it's developed from a ovipositor tube to lay eggs, and males don't lay eggs, so they can't sting at all. So one thing you shouldn't do then is just like this and make them angry and grab them. If you just leave them alone, they'll be very useful. Just let them be. Yes.
Lees even wat eronder staat.
Okay. Well, now I've been collecting some bees and wasps the last week, and I made some pictures of those. Well, this one you have seen flying around, probably hard to miss. This big.
Oh, weet je, de houtbal.
Carpenter bee. Just this. The interesting thing about bees is that there are different. They collect, of course, pollen and nectar, and they do it in different ways. This family of the leafcutter mason and resin bees, they collect their pollen and underneath the abdomen. You see here all kind of orange pollen. That's typical for this family. Yes. This is the same family, only this one. Where does it collect its pollen? This one? You know, anyone? It doesn't. It's a male, so it just hangs around and tries to find the females. So that's all it does. Actually.
Question.
Yes. Next. There's also some very strange. There's also a bee. You wouldn't say so. This is a cuckoo bee, and these bees don't do the work. They just try to find other bees which have done the work, and then they find the nest cells of these bees and lay their own egg there, and that egg hatches before the egg of the actual bee that did all the work and eats it and then eats the rest of the food. A lot easier, but this is actually a male of that species. A very strange one. Yes. Some other bees have a different strategy, and they collect all they have these hind legs are very hairy, and they collect all the pollen with the hind legs. It's a very small bee, about 5 millimeters, which is also different sites on the island. Yes. It's also one of the same family. Nice blue, metallic. Yeah. These are these are called sweat bees. Often very nicely metallic blue. I found different species here, small ones and a little bit bigger, but usually, like this one here, also partly metallic. This is only about 3 millimeters long. It's very small. Okay, this was the bees and some wasps that you can find here on Seba. Well, this is of course the most common one and most feared and the only social
Of
one.
wij van elkaar
Yes.
zijn.
But you also have these things. And these hunt caterpillars. Yes. And scollate wasps is called. We have beetle larvae. I found several of these. These are all quite big bees, about 2.5 centimeters. Yes. Threadways of wasps. They hunt grasshoppers. Actually, they hunt for everything. Every group of insects, there's a wasp which hunts it. So, this one is a nice one. I found this one near the harbor on the Tent Bay Road. And there's a little puddle on the road with mud, and they were collecting it. Like you can see it here. And these wasps are interesting because they build their nests out of this mud clay. You see here, he's got a ball of clay here. And this is his puddle, and you can see here about 10 of these wasps here, all collecting mud. These are also wasps that we found there. They're sand wasps. They make nests in the sand and like very hot, dry places. Also big species. Yes, and they hunt bugs. So, and these you can also find about the same coloration, but they hunt flies. Also big species. Yes, and there are several species. It appears to be a very difficult group. There are several species here, and I still don't know which one I have them. They vary from very small to very large, and we'll find out. And this is an interesting one. The first researchers who came here, who also did wasps, they were here already in November, I think, the first group. And then there were some other people doing wasps in February, and they all found this wasp. And they've been looking at in the collection in the Netherlands to find what is it, because they didn't put a name on it. And it really appears to be a new species, which has not been described. So the first group found one, and the other group also found one specimen of this. And I was lucky enough to go up this weekend to the Eco Lodge up there, and I found 3 of them at the same time. And also, here's the next picture. They were drinking in the pond here, so on the Eco Lodge on the water lily leaves. So there are plenty of them around, but nobody has ever described them. And actually, I have the coloration of a Jack Spaniard, but they're about half the size. and we just don't know what they do or where they live. And I hope to find out, but yeah, interesting species. So let's see, this is all the, that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Questions?
Yes?
Yeah, do you guys already know who's gonna describe the new species?
Which one?
Who's going to describe the new species?
Who's going to describe it? Now, well, there are several researchers who've been collecting species here, so when I get back, and we can get together and see who's got what and if they're the same or different, and so we don't know yet. Yes, but probably together. I don't know. Only problem is that we haven't found a male yet of this species, so we have now about 5 females, but the males may be very useful to have a male to describe the species. But we haven't found them yet. All right. Thank you.